If we're forced to face things before we are ready, then that can actually re-traumatize us. It can push us further from the true, deep processing of an issue. And it can push us more into this kind of distanced, avoidant process.
On Stories of Self, we go on journeys into the lives of ourselves and others. We see how stories connect, how they diverge, and how we can create our worlds and solve our problems. This is the real-life remix of storytelling, which is so often stranger than fiction. So come and sit around the fire, chill by the ocean, or get a coffee with me, as I delve into the stories of self that make, break, and remake us. Some stories are dramatic, some are serene, some will magically mirror you, and some will be delightfully different. I'm your host, Katie Reeve Arnold, and this is Stories of Self.
There was a song I really liked in my early 20s, and it was called Run Baby Run. And I really liked it because that's what I desired. That kind of brought up this deep need in me and this deep want to just run away. And I did. I ran for a really long time. But just recently, having turned around to face a few things, I thought to myself, is it always unhealthy to run away from things? Were all these things I should have faced years and years, decades ago? Or actually, can it be healthy to run from things if we're not ready or not able or not prepared to face them? I ran for a really long time, and I did it because I was too weak to turn around and face it, so I thought. But actually, I enjoyed the running that I did in some ways, and I learned a lot as I ran. I experienced a lot, and every time I reached a new place, I was a little bit freer to either be myself or to recognize what it was about that place that was bringing up things from the past that I didn't want in my life. So, over time, I've kind of acquired this compassion for myself. I've noticed that I was actually not just running, not just leaving everything behind. I was, but I was also accruing the tools and life skills I needed to deal with it all. I was running as I collected the things I needed to actually turn around and face the things behind me. So I was doing the things I needed to do before I could move to the next stage of being me after dealing with it. And I think that this is actually something to really appreciate, because I think if we are confronted by our own issues too quickly, if we, for example, have nowhere to run, whether that's because we don't, or because we cannot create or think of the capacity within us, or because we are restricted, as in we are confined to stay in something that we've been in before rather than leaving it, we can be forced to face things before we are ready. And if we're forced to face things before we are ready, then that can actually re-traumatize us. It can push us further from the true, deep processing of an issue. And it can push us more into this kind of distanced, avoidant process where we're actually denying within the same view of the thing that we are processing, we are denying its existence. So living in denial like this means that, maybe we haven't run. Maybe we haven't run in our minds. Maybe we haven't run in what we're doing. Maybe we haven't run in location. But we're still not working through or processing what's happened in the past that we hold within us. We're still living directed by that issue. Another area in our lives where we process things strongly is in dreams. So I spent some time looking at dream analysis, and I spent some time working and training in dream analysis. It's really, really interesting. But the essential basis of it is that dreams talk in symbols. And I think probably everyone has seen one of those dream books that tells you it's going to tell you what all the symbols mean. Or people have spoken to somebody about a dream and somebody said, oh, yeah, well, when you dream of this, it means this, you know? But it's not that simple, unfortunately. And fortunately as well, once we know this, we can understand ourselves and others so much better. Because of the fact that we are all unique, we are all different, we actually, when things come up in our dreams, like for example, water doesn't mean one universal thing across all dreamers, across all people. It's actually related to what you first think of when you think of water. Don't question it, just think. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? And so if you want to spend some time looking at your dreams, you can actually write them down, so you can help yourself to remember them. You can write them down upon waking. Keep a pen and paper next to your bed maybe, and jot down some notes. You can use your phone, but I wouldn't recommend it, because the thing is that the light will actually stop you from falling back asleep again. Maybe you can use your phone or some kind of technological note-taking process if you're jotting them down first thing in the morning rather than in the middle of the night. And so then once you've got those notes down there, have a look through it and see if you can see any trends, anything that was strong, and see what you think of. When that thing comes up, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Because that's your symbolism? Symbolization. That's your symbolism, your own personal symbolism. Relating to that, okay? And we're all different. So this is how our dreams actually talk to us, and our dreams are working in our processing. And I found actually that it's really nice to notice how much processing is going on in your dreams. So even if you just keep a dream journal for a while, you'll be surprised at how quickly you can start to remember your dreams and how much you are doing while you're asleep. Another thing about the dream journal is it really can help you to recognize just how important good sleep is. And I think we all go through phases of our lives where we prioritize the waking world. Of course we do, we're in it, but we prioritize it so much, it's kind of at the cost of our sleep. And this will help you to really recognize and really understand how important your sleep is for you in a way that you're embodying it, okay? Because we can tell ourselves, oh, I need to get to bed earlier, or I need to make time to get off the screen just before bed. You can tell ourselves those things, but this brings it to life. So I really recommend it for anybody who is habitually bad at what my friend calls good sleep hygiene. And I point out that people often can't relate to that term because the thing is that actually we don't think about it like hygiene. We think about it like, oh, it's just sleeping, you know. But it is really important. It's really important for our health in the same way that it's called sleep hygiene, because of the fact that as we brought washing ourselves and that kind of hygiene into our general day-to-day life as human beings, we actually survived better. We prospered better because we were healthier. Sleep is the same, okay? So we focus on it and we get enough of it and we support ourselves in it and we prosper better. Now, we can see how important dreams are, and we can see how things in dreams can be beautiful. We can see this beautiful processing going on, but we can also have horrible dreams that we don't want to have again. And the key to that is to process them. I spent decades of my life, not just years, but decades, having the same horrible, horrible dreams over and over again before I found that the actual way to bring about the ending of these dreams was not to wish them away, but rather to actually face them, to talk about them with somebody, and to process them. Now, I understand that can be very difficult. It can be very embarrassing. There can be shame associated with having these kinds of dreams. It can also be fearful that you don't want to bring this darkness into somebody else's life. I definitely felt like that. but it's very worthwhile. So what I did was I did it with a therapist, and I also put a little heading before the dreams when I spoke to him about it, or when I wrote it in the journal. I that he could read as well. I actually put a little heading that said, content warning kind of thing, but just because I felt like I had to be able to give him that information before going into this, and that's totally fine to do. And you should really be able to trust people. If people turn around and say, "Yeah, you can tell me, I can handle it," then take them at their word. It's not your responsibility to choose their life for them. Trust them to choose their life for themselves, as they're trusting you to be in their life and interact with them in a true and honest way. When they say, "You can tell me," listen, try active listening with that. Some people will kind of half listen. And if somebody is half listening, you can just point out to them, you can just say, "No, this is actually really important to me. I really, I would like to know if you've got the attention for it and the bandwidth, the capacity for it right now. And if you haven't, that's okay. But I really need to know." And so most people will be honest with you because you're not trying to push something on them. You're not calling them bad or wrong if they're not there for you, because you recognize that just as you have capacity, they have capacity, or don't. So there's a very famous kind of statement by Carl Jung, who was a big analyzer of dreams. He's a psychoanalyst who really spent his time focusing on dreams and the symbology of dreams. And he said that there was a woman who came to him and said, "Every night I have this horrible dream where this person is chasing me, and they're chasing me and chasing me, and this they're like a monster, and they're chasing me and over and over and over, and I don't want to have it anymore." And he said, "Well, what do you do?" And she said, I run until I wake up." And he said, "Well, my dear, turn around and ask it what it wants. Turn around and face it." And essentially, this is, although that sounds terrifying, this is actually what we need to do with our dreams and with our past. But you can see that you need a high level of capacity, or not extremely high. I don't mean it that way. You just need the capacity to be able to deal with that, okay? So don't constantly put it off because you think you need a higher and higher level of capacity. I've been there too, where I just need to do this one more thing, this one more this one more that. I wouldn't be sitting here today saying this if I had put everything off and off and off, as part of my brain tells me to, the perfectionist part. That's the part that's going to protect you by never letting you actually do anything that you want to do. Because you can never fail then if you never actually try. Although actually, if you look at it another way, you failed before you started. So rather, I'm just going forwards with this. And once we've built up a little bit of capacity, we'll understand, we'll feel in us when the time is to turn and face something. And it's perfectly natural to feel a little bit of resistance to that, because it's not easy. But I read a book a few years ago. It's 2 books by Gregory M. Peck. It's the Road Less Traveled. And the first one starts by saying, "No one ever told you life would be fair." And the second one starts by saying, "No one ever told you life would be easy." And bringing those things into my understanding has really, really helped me to stop creating helplessness for myself and to stop victimizing myself. No one ever told me life would be easy or fair. But it is beautiful. It is interesting. And beauty itself doesn't always have to be good. Beauty is unique, is independent, is interesting, it attracts our eye for some reason, right? So yeah, it can be actually very healthy, I recognized, to choose to run, as long as we can in future recognize that as the choice we have made, and notice when it's time to turn around and face it. Notice when that feeling of when we've actually got the capacity, or the way you could look at it is nearly. I'm nearly there. I've recognized that it's time to turn around and face something, not when I think I'm there, but when I'm nearly there. because actually I will never, it's a protective instinct. I'll never let myself get to the point where I'm there, and to turn around. Oh, I'm there. I have everything I need. I'm going to turn around now. Unfortunately, with the protecting mechanisms of numbing and avoidance, I'm not going to get to that point. So now I recognize when I feel like I'm nearly there. I'm nearly got this. That's the time. Just get started. I just jump in at that point, because you finish the process of becoming ready in the step forwards into doing it. So eventually, otherwise, if you keep running just involves carrying all these old burdens bound within us, and they're impacting everything we do. And to release those, it not only lightens the load, it sets us free to be who we truly are and to move forwards. It's a really important process. It's really liberating, but it is challenging, and support can be really helpful in it. One of the most impressive tools I've discovered for identifying, investigating, and managing facing the issues I carry is via hypnosis. So I started having hypnosis myself a few years ago now, and it really allowed me to relax into a processing and relax into feeling the symbols that were coming up for me, that were allowing me to process or to see where I needed to develop more capacity in order to process in future. I found it so useful. I found it so important in my life, so freeing, so liberating, that I actually chose to train as a hypnotherapist in order to be able to bring that release and refreshment that I'd found to others. I found it just so important that I dedicated some time to becoming that. And I've really enjoyed being able to be a hypnotherapist. It really opens up a new world of shifting and understanding, and it allows, a lot of time it can allow people to speak in a way that they might block themselves through fear if they weren't under hypnosis. Now, it's a very different thing to being hypnotized on a stage and, barking like a dog or clucking like a chicken when someone snaps their fingers. It's not like that at all. You actually are you have the capacity to come back at all times, but obviously you are in such a trusting and relaxed state that you allow the journey to continue in harmony with the hypnotherapist. So it's not actually that you are asleep or not there. It's that you're going deeper within yourself in partnership with the hypnotherapist. So there actually isn't any, risk of you becoming a dog or a chicken or something during it. It's not that kind of hypnosis intervention. But hypnosis can help us to see what's there. And in that, it can help us to link present patterns and habits to the past events that actually created or caused them, and to help us to break them and choose a new way forward. And it can really help us jump into choosing that new way forward. Hypnosis can help us find compassion for the past versions of ourselves or others that caused the creation of any issue, and help us to find what we couldn't in the past and frame it within us in the present. So we can actually look at past issues and not so much relive, but reframe them in the present. So we can take the learning and understanding from them, and we can bring to them the learning and understanding and capacity we now have that maybe we didn't at the time. And in that, we can actually free any bound tension in that situation so that we don't carry it going forwards. Hypnosis can help us to explore a world beyond our simple memories and reach into our subconscious to lift the misty truths that still lay there to the surface, where we can work with them until we can greet them as old friends or let them go. So is it always a bad thing to run? No, I don't think it is. But recognize when you're doing it. As I said, that song, I knew it played in my head. I knew every time I ran in my 20s, 30s, every time I ran, I knew I was doing it. And I didn't quite know why, But as I ran through life, I gathered the capability I needed to actually face my past that I had run from. So know what you're doing, notice that you're doing it, allow for it with compassion, but know when it's nearly time to turn around and face that which you've run from, and turn around and face it then. Maybe use a tool of hypnosis, maybe therapy, maybe connect with a friend and see what happens through that path. But make sure you're supported and you support yourself in not only running, not running for the whole of life, but turning around and facing what you're running from before that so that you can live a liberated, free, ecstatic existence without looking back on the past and feeling that you spent your whole life controlled by early issues that you just didn't know how to deal with back then. Once you develop capacity, return to them with support, reframe them, and let them go. And you'll be able to be who you truly are. And that's a beautiful way to live.
We are all telling our stories. And we are all telling ourselves stories about it all. Are you brave enough to walk with me into hearing, considering, and understanding the stories we tell? Join me next time, where we'll be considering more stories and illusions and stepping into creating the freedom we desire. Every moment, we are who we are choosing to be. You choose. Choose you, because your story matters.